I'm Paul Kieve, and I'm the illusion designer, special effects designer on Ghost the Musical. Yeah, I mean, in some ways it's odd that it's being an illusion designer or having magic in a show is unusual, because magic is such a huge part of so many stories. But once in a while I get to work on an amazing story that's full of magic, and the director decides they want to actually deliver that magic to the audience or show the audience things that are astonishing. And sometimes the narrative comes from a kind of, it might be a show about a magician or something like that. But actually a big part of a lot of stories is ghosts and spirits and things like that. And obviously one of the great classics stories with ghosts was the 1990 movie. So for me to get the chance to create some of the famous moments of that movie kind of live on stage was a massive challenge. And I guess one of the biggest challenges was Sam having to put his hand through solid objects and you know, at a certain point walking through a door. So there was a huge amount of investment, both in time and, to be honest, in money, and a lot of, you know, kind of sleepless nights for me trying to work out how to achieve that on stage. And that's one example of many, many things that happen in Ghosts. And actually incorporating magic into a musical, illusions like this, is tremendously difficult. And I'm not saying that as a boastful thing in terms of for me, but it's difficult for the entire team, because you've got, you know, within a musical, you've got obviously the book writer, you've got the script, you've got the set design, but also the lighting design, which a lot of people might not even really think about, and costume design, all these different elements, and of course the actors learning where they're going on the stage. And in order to make magic a sort of a seamless part of the story and not be clunky, all of those things have to be considered. So every other department has to sort of move around a little bit in order to make these illusions happen. So I think one of the things about Ghost, I think is right in saying, is that it's one of the most tremendously collaborative musicals in terms of the technical side of it. It's been fantastic. I mean, from London to Broadway, there were a huge number of illusionists that started to hear about the magic in Ghost. And everyone from David Blaine to David Copperfield to Teller, from Penn and Teller, they've all been in to see Ghost, and all, you know, across the board were hugely enthusiastic and complimentary. But not only that, David Copperfield actually said that he hadn't been so amazed for years, and was very kind enough to give a quote which went on the billboard in Times Square, and has even talked about walking through the door in interviews as a moment of astonishment. And that's an important thing. You know, magic and illusion is all about astonishment. And if you see something happen before your eyes that you can't believe, but you know it's happened, it makes your mouth fall open, your eyes widen. It's like almost like a childlike feeling that you don't often get. So to be astonished is a great thing, and this story is all about belief. I mean, one of the captions, one of the, you know, the logos of it is believe. And of course, all the way through the story, the audience is wanting Molly to believe that Sam is there. They know that he is, but Molly at points does, at points doesn't. So the illusion and the magic really comes in to enhance that aspect of the story. So when it happens, the audience is almost rooting for it, because they're thrilled when something happens, whether it's the invisible or the ghost beating up the bad guy at the end, and you don't see the ghost, and all these things happen to the bad guy, and they're on the side of that happening because they want to see him, you know, they want to see that revenge. Or when it's an object in Molly's hands that moves and proves finally that Sam is there, the audience watching this is kind of on the side of the magic in a way. Well, I think what they walk away with is this extraordinary story. I mean, we had a run-through in the rehearsal room a couple of days ago, and although the cast have all been working on it, obviously, for 3 weeks now, and they know what the story is, it's the first time I think they'd all had a chance to experience the story as one continuous narrative. And most of them were in tears at the end of it. It is a beautifully moving story, and it's uplifting at the end, and it does, you know, it does ask this extraordinary question. And that wonderful line that Bruce Joel Rubin wrote, you know, the love inside, you take it with you. It's not something that you talk about at the pub or, you know, the bar in a light-hearted way, but it has an incredible heart to it, this story. So it's a real honor to be a part of that and to bring the illusion in a way to help enhance that story, to bring it. When one of the first times we did this in Manchester, the original director, Matthew Warchus, he said to me, you know, I've never seen an audience applaud and cry at the same time. And we have this sort of weird combination of things. People are like amazed with what they're seeing, and they're also kind of moved by it. And of course, being moved by it is all about the story and all about the narrative. And I feel like it's like I get to come along and put the cherry on the cake, because, okay, the walking through the door is an illusion that I'm very proud of and has amazed many people. But unless it meant something at that point in the story, it wouldn't go for anything. But because the audience wants Sam to get out through that door, and it's the only way you can do it, you get a kind of double whammy, really. Well, it is interesting. I mean, it's such an odd thing, because illusionist, that sort of effect is it's a very technical thing, because you've got to check that people can see it from all seats in the audience. And also there's an element of invention. There's also an element of research. You know, I researched a lot of the Victorian ghost effects that were done in the 1860s in London and became very famous. And so it's a part sort of historic, it's based on some kind of historical principles, but it has also got enough new elements to it to have fooled, I think, almost the whole magic profession. And in fact, Teller from Penn & Teller wrote to me very recently and said, you know, your door illusion is the thing that's fooled the profession more than anything in the last 20 years. And I think one of the reasons is that within a stage set, I'm playing with a very, very big box of tricks. You know, I can use the whole flying and the wing space and all these things. Of course, that becomes a bigger challenge on tour. When we came to tour it, we had to completely change the way we were doing it from a sit-down production. You know, to give you an idea, on Broadway, I think we were in the theatre for probably 2.5 months before we did a performance. And on this tour, we're going to be moving in at, you know, 9 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday and opening that night. So we can't use the same things exactly. So I had to solve walking through the door, I think even before they decided they were going to tour it. So we had to come up with that first, and then the entire design kind of grew out from it. So these things only happen through a lot of planning and a lot of consideration. But in terms of exactly how it's done, I'm not going to tell you.